Finally, a real movie.
Hello, I'm Ryan Donato.
Hello, welcome back to another hard review, and I am here to talk about Killers of the Flower Moon. This is the new Martin Scorsese movie starring Leonardo DiCaprio, Lily Gladstone, and Robert De Niro. This is a movie about the killing of a bunch of Native Americans in this town. I didn't read the book, but I have it here, Killers of the Flower Moon, The Osage Murders, and the Birth of the FBI, which is very applicable to what the movie's all about, obviously. I had a fantastic time with this movie. Obviously, a big talking point here is going to be the runtime. 3 hours and 26 minutes. Extremely long. Similar runtime to Avatar, The Way of Water, as well as The Irishman. The difference is that The Irishman went on Netflix, so you could watch it at your own leisure. Also, I think they did a similar thing with Hateful Eight, where they break it up into episodes, kind of like they did with the Snyder Cut, so you can kind of watch it in bits, which I wanted to rewatch The Irishman because of this movie. To reassess this era of Martin Scorsese, I would have done the option where I went through chapters. I mean, I would have tried to do as many as possible at a time. Still, the stability of knowing that, like, there's 45-minute increments in which I can, like, leave off on the movie on, like, a good note. I could definitely see your average moviegoer being like, oh my fucking god, like, you tell me I gotta be here for over 3 hours? But for you cinephiles out there who know what you're getting into, who are showing up because it's Martin Scorsese pairing up with Leonardo DiCaprio and Robert De Niro once again, those people will be more than happy to sit for over 3 hours. They'll tell you that they would have sat for 4 hours. There's plenty of good stuff here. I feel like the movie goes along at a pretty good clip. It does get a little repetitive to a certain extent. My biggest thing with the movie is obviously it's a movie about history, but everyone in it is so dumb, especially our main character. He's just so obnoxiously dumb, which is very funny at times. It is frustrating watching because it's a lot of, like, brutal stuff going on here. So it is kind of satisfying seeing the FBI go after these morons. To those who think this is way too long of a runtime, then don't see it. Or watch it and go to the bathroom for a scene. That's fine. It's going to be okay. Obviously, you want to get every single ounce of a Scorsese movie. Everything in the movie has a purpose, and it is great, and I do recommend watching it all the way through. But if you really are like, oh, that's way too long for me, go to the bathroom. It's okay. You can do it. I believe in you. Just don't go on your phone. Don't distract other people. Leonardo DiCaprio is great in this movie. Obviously, he is. It's not one of my favorite performances from him. It's not even one of my favorite Scorsese performances from him, just because, like I said, he is just so vile and dumb. I mean, he's a very interesting character, I'll say that. And I don't think he's the worst person in this movie. I feel like he loves his wife. I really do feel like he loves his wife, despite his actions saying otherwise. But, like, it's just funny because he's just so stupid and it's just openly contradictory. Like, he's like a walking contradiction, man. Like, it's kind of frustrating in that regard. Lily Gladstone is fantastic in the movie as well. She's somewhat sidelined in the movie, which I know prior to its release, Martin Scorsese was like, yeah, we had to change things up because we realized, this is really her story. And yes, the story of her people, but it does more so focus on the plot against her people. Not glorifying it or anything. Definitely, they shoot the Killers of the Flower Moon. Those guys are not being shown in a positive light in any way, shape, or form. Vile, disgusting, and dumb are definitely the 3 words I would use to describe them. But I do wish she had more time to shine. I think they said that she would be campaigning as lead, which I could see her definitely getting a nomination and maybe even a win, depending on how competitive the category is this year. I know a lot of people already talk about Emma Stone in Poor Things. Leonardo DiCaprio being nominated as well. I think he will get nominated. It's him in a Scorsese movie, and it's a very meaty role. I can't really see him winning, especially when we have heavy hitters out there like Bradley Cooper in Maestro and Cillian Murphy in Oppenheimer. Definitely ripe with food for thought. It's one that stuck in my head. I saw it like a week ago, and it still, like, persists in my brain. It's very interesting in what it has to say, especially at the end of the movie, the way that the movie frames how these things are going down. It's hard to talk about without spoiling it, but it's one that adds an interesting perspective to a situation. A situation that we've seen shown in a very similar light repeatedly. Like, it was interesting to see in this society, the Native American people, they were extremely wealthy. And since they had access to the oil and they're wearing, like, very, very nice clothes, it's just the relationship that they had with the white people that lived in that town. That was probably the most interesting part about the movie, and just in general. It's just seeing this dynamic play out. It is a very sad and frustrating movie. It's certainly not one of my top 5 favorite Scorsese movies. That being said, that's such a ridiculous standard to hold hold a movie to. This movie's fantastic. It's already one of my top 10 favorite movies of the year, very easily. Not in the top 5 range, because I'm pretty solid right there, but definitely in the 6 to 10 range. I wouldn't be surprised if it falls out. Just not my personal, like, it's not something I'm gonna go back to anytime soon, but it's definitely a fantastic movie that I had a fantastic time watching. We'll be revisiting at some point, and I will be rooting for it. I don't think Scorsese will get director either. I don't think it'll get Best Picture. I think it'll get nominations at all these things that I brought up. Even Robert De Niro at supporting actor. But I just can't really see them winning in any regard. I just feel like Christopher Nolan is due. Overdue, that is. So I think they're going to sweep a lot, kind of like Everything Everywhere All at Once did. Because, you tend to be like, when you're predicting the Oscars, like, oh, they're going to represent this movie here, and this movie here, and this movie here. But last year, like, Tar didn't win anything. Elvis, The Fabelmans, Banshees, like, a lot of great movies got completely shut out at the Oscars this past year. And because Everything Everywhere All at Once swept pretty hard. And guess what? That's also a movie that didn't come out during award season, came out earlier in the year and dominated with its legs over the summer, just like Oppenheimer did. Oppenheimer's about to cross the $1 billion mark, and it's super well reviewed, and it's not a big franchise movie. It's an original movie. I mean, it's about history, but like, it's very universal too. Killers of the Flower Moon obviously touches on a very touchy subject. I do think that Scorsese tackled it with a good amount of sensitivity, care, and respect. I massively appreciate this movie. I definitely recommend checking it out in theaters. It's funny because after we had Barbenheimer, people were like, oh, they're going to totally misunderstand what made Barbenheimer so big. It wasn't that it was two opposite movies. Saw Patrol, where it's like, oh, this is like a horror movie for adults, and then this is a movie for babies with dogs. What made Barbenheimer cool was that it was two amazing filmmakers with two great casts with two very different aesthetics. And I kind of feel like we have a similar vibe here in October with the Eras Tour, which will continue to dominate this weekend, far surpassing Killers of the Flower Moon. There's not a great filmmaker behind the Eras Tour, but it's got 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. And I'll tell you what, talk about icons in your field, like leading, members of your field. Taylor Swift is certainly, obviously she doesn't have the experience that Scorsese had, but Scorsese also top of the game, you know what I mean? So I put $20 earlier this year on Killers of the Flower Moon winning Best Picture this year, so I'm a little disappointed, but I'm hoping that I'm just on the lower end of it. But fantastic movie, 5 out of 5. Be sure to check this one out in theaters. If not, wait for it on Apple TV Plus. Break it up into bits. It's a really great movie. You binge shows all the time. Binge the movie. It's fantastic. Thank you guys so much for watching this review. Like, comment, subscribe, and why don't you guys tell me what your favorite Martin Scorsese movie is? Mine has to be either Taxi Driver or Wolf of Wall Street. Wolf of Wall Street's the first one I saw in theaters, but I feel like Taxi Driver is just the best one. But I did recently buy The Last Temptation of Christ, which is one of my personal favorite first-time watches that's not a new movie this year. Fantastic movie.